Hallo und willkommen zurück bei A Hand in the Darkness. Nachdem wir jetzt Damiens gutes Ende herausgespielt haben, ähm, will ich natürlich noch die zwei anderen Enden von Damiens Weg erspielen und bin deswegen ein gutes Stück wieder zurück gesprungen. Und zwar bevor wir in die Kirche gegangen sind. Ich glaube, es war bevor wir in die Kirche gegangen sind. Ich bin mir gerade nicht mehr sicher. Auf jeden Fall bin ich ein gutes Stück zurückgesprungen, ähm, als wir gerade in dem Study Room sitzen und mit Rick und Monty lernen und Damien zu uns kommt und uns herausbittet. Und das letzte Mal haben wir Excuse Yourself ausgewählt und dieses Mal werden wir Get Angry auswählen. Mal gucken, was kommt. No way, I'm studying in case you haven't noticed. Please keep your voice quiet, Alex. You're disturbing the others. If you must go, then go already. No, I won't. Damien watched me through squinted eyes, but I tried to stand my ground. Count me in tomorrow, okay? We can meet tomorrow morning, or whenever you want, but not today, please? Damien flicked his tongue in annoyance and turned on his heels, leaving the study room in 3 long strides. Monty and Rick stared at me with surprise. If you two are investigating, then perhaps you should go with him. I felt too outraged by Damien's behavior to answer. Did he think that in exchange of his help I was a slave and he could drag me out of my duties or my spare time whenever he felt like? Well, I wasn't going to allow it. On the other hand, there was the issue with his blackmail. Was he so angry with me right then that he would go to the head teacher to hand me in? I hope not. I had agreed to meet him the next day, hadn't I? The next day, being Sunday, I could dedicate him as much time as he wished. I needed a while to calm down and focus on Rick's explanations about Latin grammar. In the end, I don't think I advanced much with it, sadly. That evening, Damien disappeared right after dinner, and it didn't join us in our bedroom afterwards, not even by the time we went to bed. Who knows what the heck he's doing? Well, at least we don't have to get up so early tomorrow morning. And you know what? I really don't want to know where he is. Good night, guys. Monty was right. It wasn't our problem. Except if he was right now at the head teacher's office talking up about me, of course. The thought didn't let me get to sleep in a long while, and I kept turning and tossing for hours. I was still awake, staring in the dark walls, when I heard the bedroom door pushed open with care. It was Damien. I couldn't check the time, but it was quite sure it was already past midnight. Surprisingly, instead of undressing and climbing to his bunk bed, he approached me and tapped my shoulder. Alex. I stopped pretending I was asleep and opened my eyes. I'm still awake. What do you want? It's horribly late. Shh. Come on, get up and meet me in the corridor. He retreated to the door again, trading as silently as he could to avoid rousing our roommates. I wondered what was up. Had something happened? More than slightly worried, I got up from my bed, put my slippers on, and followed Damien outside. As soon as we were out of our bedroom, Damien placed his index in front of his lips, asking me to be quiet, and took my hand before starting to walk. Where are you going? Is something wrong? Shh, little bird. We can talk later. We can talk here. I stopped walking when we arrived to the main stairs, annoyed. I let go of his hand and tried not to raise my voice when I rebuked. Tell me where you're going, or I'm going back to bed. Damien leaned on the wall and let out a loud sigh. Then he put his hand inside his trousers pocket and took a key out, showing it to me. Look what I had the luck to nick today from a drunken teacher. It's the master key that opened most doors in the school. Oh, I stared at the big old key. What an interesting finding. I wondered what use for it Damien had in mind. But before that... Nicked? But Damien... He raised his hand to wave away my concerns. Don't worry, the poor sod drank too much that he almost passed out in the kitchen. He could have lost it anywhere. Nobody will suspect me. I nodded, not very confident of his methods. Anyway, how could we use the key for our investigation? A master key was always a useful tool to have, but I thought that, given that you were so busy today and I couldn't spend any time with you, we could sneak away at night and have a bit of quality time together in our classroom, maybe? What? I didn't know if I was more surprised or angry, both at the same time, I guessed. I turned on my heels and started walking back to the dorms. Good night, Damien. He grabbed my forearm again and forced me to turn and look at him. Wait, don't you want to go? No, I don't. Please let go of me. He shook my arm with a huff, but didn't release me. Instead, he glared at me with a dangerous glint in his eyes. I felt intimidated and a bit scared, to be honest, but I tried to stand my ground and not to cave in. I'm going nowhere with you. It's midnight, and I'm going back to sleep. No way in hell! May I remind you that I could go to the head teacher and have a few words with him? Or, still better, I will send him an anonymous letter. Let him get to know the real perverted you. How would you like that? I yanked my arm from his grasp and slipped away from his fingers. There was a familiar sting of restrained tears in the corners of my eyes, but I stepped back and held them while facing him. You know what? I don't mind anymore. Damien's eyebrows arched up in surprise until they almost touched his hairline. Alex. No, I prefer to be sent back home than to stay here and having to do your will all the time. I meant it. And I started to run. I heard Damien at my back chasing me. Alex, no, stop. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. Well, it was a tad too late for that. Instead of going back to my bedroom, I ran past it and turned a few corners without a clear destination. I just wanted to lose Damien, who was still running after me. My tear has escaped it by then, unable to restrain them anymore, so I wasn't too sure of my whereabouts in the semi-darkness. I knew I would need a lot of time to find my way back later, but I was so upset that I didn't mind right then. My only goal was getting rid of my harasses, and he was still tailing me. Stopped a moment to regain my breath and took around for possible escape routes. I heard Damien getting closer. Damn. I hid behind a curtain. It wasn't a good hideout, but as a temporary place would suffice. Damien arrived to the corridor I was and stopped to look around as I had done before. Alex, please come back to our bedroom. It's not safe for you to wander around unless still at night. Please. I'm sorry, okay? We'll talk in the morning if you want. Stubbornly, I made myself smaller in my nook and waited until he went by and turned a corner. I stepped out then and sighed, distressed. What should I do? He was riding away, but I didn't want to go back to our bedroom and have to face him again. Perhaps in the morning, but not right then. Considering my options, I opened a half-concealed door. It led to a dark and old-looking stair. Perhaps it went down to the kitchen. I could spend the night there, near the fireplace. I was sure Mrs. Hutchinson would scold me a bit, but in the end she seemed kind enough. She surely would even give me some early breakfast in the morning when she found me out. Convincing myself, I started to go down the stairs, leaving the door upstairs open so I could have some light. Come morning, I would face Damien, and if I had to go back to my village, well, right now I didn't hate that option. Wouldn't I be better at home with my family, with no attackers threatening me and no lewd blackmailers? All of a sudden, I felt a hand on my mouth, rough, big, and forceful. That wasn't Damien. I opened my eyes wide in surprise and tried to yell for help. A low male voice said in my ear, "About time, after all our efforts, and now you come to meet me on your own? What a lucky day. Well, not for you, of course." A strong stink of tobacco assaulted my nostrils, but before I could budge and try to kick him and escape, I felt a sting on my stomach and a sudden wetness. I touched my belly. It was damp, and I knew at once, without needing to see the knife this time, what the man had stabbed me. My knees bucked, but the stranger held me still and kept covering my mouth, while the blood left quickly in my body. Shh, be quiet, boy. It will be over soon. I couldn't feel my hands or my legs anymore, and my sight was starting to fade away. The corners of my eyes prickled with tears, and I felt too weak to fight him. The man let me fall onto my knees at last, without letting go of my mouth and my arms. I was exhausted, and my conscience was trying to slip away. I struggled to keep my eyes open, but it was a lost fight. As my mind went completely blank, I heard a faraway voice. Alex, please, come back! Das ging jetzt schneller als gedacht. Uiuiui. Okay, wir sind tot. Ja. Ja. Ich mag die schlechten Enden nicht. Ich mag's nicht, wenn wir sterben. Mann. Okay, wir haben das Bad End. Dann werde ich jetzt Bad Ends sind immer so traurig. Mann. Dann werde ich jetzt einen kurzen Cut machen und wir sehen uns bei einer bei einer anderen Entscheidung wieder, wo ich denke, dass es danach das Bad Relationship End geben wird. Und dann werden wir mal gucken, was dabei rauskommt. Also ich muss sagen, das Bad End im Wald war tatsächlich besser als dieses gerade. Also fand ich persönlich, weiß ich nicht, schöner. Was jetzt irgendwie komisch ist für ein Bad End. Wir sind immerhin gestorben. Aber ich weiß nicht, das im Wald war irgendwie schöner beschrieben. Okay, ich würde sagen, ich mache hier einen kurzen Cut. Und wir sehen uns gleich wieder bei einem anderen Ending. So, da sind wir wieder zurück bei einer neuen Entscheidung. Und ich denke, dass wir das hier auch eine ziemliche, mir fällt das Wort nicht ein. Dass diese Entscheidung mehr nach sich ziehen wird, als man vielleicht denken mag. So, beim letzten Mal haben wir Don't Obey Him genommen und das gute Ende herausgekriegt. Jetzt würde ich sagen, nehmen wir Do As He Says. Mal gucken, was passiert. Hesitantly, I walked to the bench Damien was sitting in and kneeled down in front of him. With downcast eyes, I started freeing Damien's member from his clothes and lowering his underwear until I could take it with my whole hand. I felt a prickling on my neck as if 100 of disapproving eyes were staring at me. I didn't dare to look up to the images in the stained glass window for real of looking eyes with them. Damien placed a hand on the back of my head and ran his finger through my hair. You know what to do? I have done it to you a couple of times, so it's about time you learn too. I nodded, feeling my cheeks suddenly hot. I caressed a half-hard penis the same way I had done it the other occasionally, but it was different having it in front of my face, barely inches away. In fact, I had wanted to lick it before, so it was strange being able to finally do it. I leaned in and gave the plump tip a tentative lick. It barely had any taste, but the skin was as delicate as its touch promised, and I wanted to feel it better. I licked the path, swirling my tongue all along until the brownish curls of his public hair, and I could feel it growing larger. It was oddly satisfying knowing that despite my inexperience, I was giving him pleasure. It was a heady feeling and made me want to try new things. I sucked on his side and Damien moaned above me. His breathing was already hitched, so I must have been doing something well. I tried to remember what other things Damien did to me, and meanwhile I sucked other spots, gaining more satisfied moans of pleasure. Alex, touch me more, use your hands at the same time. Oh yes, he did that, I remembered then. I fondled his testicles with one hand and circled the base of his erection with the others. His dick was full and heavy by then. Damien cursed and softly pulled my hair. Surprisingly, they pushed some button for me too, and my own member started to feel the lack of space inside my underwear. Although I felt a bit too embarrassed to ask him to pull my hair again, Damien would certainly mock me if I did, I was sure. Caressing the whole heart on now with the hand with long and hard strokes as I knew Damien liked, I began to play with the tip with my tongue. Fuck, Alex, that's good? Bad? Too much? I never knew, because he didn't finish the sentence. I kept licking the slit with the tip of my tongue and sucking the head, resting my elbows on his trembling thighs. At this rate, I will come even before he put the whole dick inside her mouth. Alex, please do that now. I obey eagerly, opening my mouth and swallowing almost the whole shaft until I felt it stretching my lips and filling me completely. My nose almost touched his public hair. I breathed in, but the air wouldn't enter properly, and I moved back in a sudden rush of panic until I could breathe normally again. You don't need to go all the way. Use your tongue and your hand at the same time. That's more than okay. I followed his instructions, bumping his face with my hand and sucking on the part of his dick that fit comfortably inside my mouth without gagging me. Oh yes, I like that. His breath became still more elaborate, and he started to buck his lips. I opened my eyes more and sucked greedily, every additional inch of his movements forced inside. I couldn't take it anymore. I unbuttoned my trousers with my free hand and started stroking my own painful erection. It was already leaking, pre-cum, and almost ready to burst. Alex! He pulled my hair, his tugs as bright as his voice, and a moan throatly around his cock, sucking harder, moving both my hands faster, feeling my release really close. Damien backed his hips towards harshly, forcing his whole member inside my mouth by pulling my hair, and suddenly there was a gush of sour liquid running down my throat. I gulped down, and it disappeared, leaving a soft aftertaste. I cried out in pleasure and chased my own orgasm, pumping myself hard and fast. I came with Damien's dick still in my mouth, buzzing and throbbing in a last shudder of pleasure. Then Damien grabbed my limp body, pulling me to his lap, embracing me tightly. He kissed me lazily, and my exhausted mind focused at last on our surroundings. All the images and statues seemed to stare at me with reproach and disgust. I closed my eyes to avoid seeing them. The next month followed the same pattern. I had my meals and went to church every day with Monty and Rick, despite that they spoke to me less and less, and our relationship grew cold and strained. The classroom hours felt impossibly long and boring, although I did my best to follow the lessons, not always succeeding. And in the afternoons and evenings, Damien and I wandered by the barely used wings of the school, exploring abandoned classrooms and forgotten storerooms. By the end of the year, I knew the school grounds better than my own house. We smoked scant cigarettes in the most hidden parts of the wood, and always found a secluded nook where we could undress each other undisturbed. And, of course, we joined the servants in the kitchen for a hot pie and chatter every now and then. I even became friends with Jack, the young footman, who looked to drink bad and tell bad jokes. It wasn't the same as Monty and Rick, of course, and that thought burned like a gulp of the brown liquor Jack liked to drink. Damien and I joined him as his drinking from time to time. It felt good. The liquor washed down all my worries for a short while, and Damien's kisses made me forget them still longer. A week before the Christmas breaks, we found a plate with 2 pieces of cherry cake sitting on our night table. What's this? It's your birthday, Damien? He shook his head and grabbed the note that showed a bit under the plate. It says it's a present from us from Mrs. Hutchinson. My whole face lit up. I loved to be included in those kinds of presents. Mrs. Hutchinson was certainly the best. Well, in that case... I reached for one of the pieces of cake, but Damien batted my hand away. Ouch! What happened now? Don't touch it. Promise you won't let anyone eat them. I nodded, confused. If you say so, then I will, but why? He frowned and stared out the window, deep in thought. This smells fishy to me, to be honest, so wait until I get reassured before eating it. I didn't understand it, but Damien couldn't tell me anything besides he had a bad hunch about the cake. After class, we took the still untouched plate and went down to the kitchen with it. Good afternoon, dear Mrs. Hutchinson. The good woman smiled fondly at seeing us, but her face turned upset when he saw the cake plate. So it was you who stole the piece of my cake? Sarah said it was going I was going gaga, and I couldn't remember how many pieces of cake I had served. Ha! Damien offered her his most charming smile, but I could see how serious his eyes remained. Well, in fact, I found a plate in my bedroom with these notes, Mrs. Hutchinson. It sounded a bit strange to me that you went to the trouble of sending it to our bedroom when you could just give it to us when we come here to visit. The old woman bit her lip and read the note. She hit the table with the paper, and all the other servants stopped the conversation and stared at her surprised. Who would send you 2 pieces of cake in my name, pray? They would be reminded in the head teacher knew, as they are surely aware. Damien shrugged. I'm not lying. Why would I take your cake and then return it? In fact, I'm returning them to you because I thought there must be a mistake, and one of the kitchen helpers could get scolded if the cake simply vanished. Oh, don't doubt it. Everybody, please come closer. I want to know who the hell is stealing my cakes behind my back. A murmur rose from the small crowd that gathered around the kitchen table. More servants started to arrive, alerted by the cook's loud voice. What's the matter? Connie appeared at the door, carrying a small sack of coal for the oven. 2 girls explained it to her in whispers. Connie stared directly at Damien and then at me, puzzled. Then she grinned mischievously. Someone is bringing you gifts, then? Are you seducing another maid now, Damien? I watched his face, startled, trying to guess the answer. Was he? We were together almost all the time, but with Damien, who could really know? He looked at me out of the corner in his eyes and grinned. If that's the case, believe me if I say that I'm completely unaware. Could I believe him? His eyes were still serious and locked with mine. Then let's ask all the young maids, but you better go, Damien. It will make it easier for them to confess if you're not watching. That's fine, please leave. I'll question everybody, thought. This is a serious school and order must be kept. We cannot allow people to steal food or do as they please in our service. Damien went to place the plate on the kitchen table, but he let the plate slip from his hand on purpose, and the two delicious pieces of cake fell to the ground and came apart of tiny piles of sugary trash. Damien! Oops, how clumsy of me. I'm truly sorry, Mrs. Hutchinson. You two, get out of my kitchen, right now. And she threatened to chase us with the rolling pin. We ran upstairs, laughing. I still didn't understand much of what had happened, thought, except the fact that there was something wrong with those pieces of cake. I asked him while we came back to our wing. Well, I don't have any evidence, of course, but I told you it seemed fishy. And you were right, it was Mrs. Hutchinson who sent us the cake. Then who? And why? He frowned inside in annoyance. I wish I knew, but after you have been attacked twice, trust me if I say that nothing good could come of this. Unless it was just a present from a secret admirer. He threw his head back and laughed heartily. Oh my, Connie's infecting you with her dumb romantic conspiracy. And he touched my hair and kept walking fast. The next day, during lunch, I was surprised to see Jack, my acquaintance, serving the tables. Jack, you work the dining hall now? I thought you were repairing the fence. The boy looked around at us. He was afraid to be seen talking to a student, but all the other servants seemed too busy to care. He awkwardly came close and leaned in to mumble to Damien and me. We have a shortage problem right now. Remember the racket in the kitchen last afternoon? Well, because of it or not, 5 servants have left this morning, all the new ones. Damien and I stared at each other in disbelief. Jack went back to his duties, and I explained what had happened to Monty and Rick, who sat in front of us and were watching our exchange with curiosity. Rick pushed his glasses up, deep in thought. I don't know what you did yesterday, but it seems the new servants are suddenly scared of being found guilty of something, don't you think? Monty and Damien nodded in agreement, and I stared at them in confusion. What does this mean? It means, my friend, that you can relax at least. Whatever they are plotting against you, they are too afraid of being caught now and won't come back to the school. That meant that it hadn't been only my friend's imagination, that there was someone actually plotting my murder. The thought made me have goosebumps. The uneasiness of not knowing who it was or why made it still worse. But what could I do? If my friends were right and the people who had just left school were the preparators of my murder attempts, our only clue had just fled. On the bright side, as Damien said, we knew they wouldn't come back, so I could consider myself safe. Except that I didn't think I would ever consider myself safe again. The months mixed in a blur. Festivities, exams, lessons, they all mixed together until I found myself in June, facing the end of the school year. I couldn't believe my days at St. Michael's were finished. A lot had happened in my life since my arrival there, and I had changed accordingly. I wasn't very proud of how I had changed, though. My grades were low, as I expected. In the end, my tutor had talked at length with my father in his studies, and as a result they had allowed me to graduate with my peers. It was tacitly implied, though, that I wouldn't apply to any of the main universities, not that I dared with such low grades. I was happy enough to pass, quite undeservedly, to be honest. I told my father that I wished to study history in our hometown university, and he just shrugged and told me to do as I wished. He avoided my eyes, and I saw how obvious disappointed he was. It made my last days at St. Michael's rather depressing. I couldn't help but think that I could have tried harder with the subjects I struggled. That was most of them, to be honest, but all was said and done by then, so my thoughts wandered to my other main concern. I knew I was going to part ways with Monty and Rick amicably, although things weren't as I had wished with them. But, well, I had always been rather bad at making friends, so I was used to that. Damien was another thing altogether. The day I dreaded since the start was approaching. Here you are, packing your things already? I nodded, with my eyes downcast. I wasn't staying until the graduation party due to my mother being ill, so my father was picking me up in his car the next day. I was okay with that arrangement, since I hated farewells, but even so, I guess that moment was unavoidable. It's a pity you have to go back home so soon. You could have had some more days to enjoy ourselves, but what can we do? That's life, I guess. He shrugged and sat by my side with that cool facade of his that I truly envied. Beside him, I always felt self-conscious and too shy. At least we had these months, right? I think I will miss you next term in Oxford. Well, at the beginning, for sure. He laughed, and my heart clenched in pain. Hey, look at me, will you? I finally raised my head and dared to look at him in the eye. I knew what kind of pitiful face I was surely making, but I couldn't help it. Don't look at me like that. You have made this year at St. Michael's worth it, you know? I will always remember it fondly, and I'm sure you will too. I nodded. The unshed tears pricked my eyes, but I wouldn't allow them to run free. Then, no need to be sad about it. Come visit me if you ever come to Oxford, all right? He leaned in and kissed me briefly. I closed my eyes and tried to engrave the sensation on my mind to relive it again and again that summer when I would be on my own. And just like that, he was gone. Once alone, I ran my hand through my hair and started sobbing. No. Oh. Oh, das ist ein Scheißende. Also das ist wirklich ein Bad End. Oh. Oh, im Vergleich zu dem guten Ende, wie Damien da zu ihm war, ist das gerade echt arschig. Ich bin ja eigentlich immer für diese Arschlochtypen. Da habe ich so einen kleinen Spleen, aber oh, das ist schon kalt. Sitzt da, hat er das komplette letzte Jahr mit ihm rumgehauen. Wir sagen das so in Bayern, bei uns heißt das so. Und dann sagt er, ja, komm doch mal, wenn du Bock drauf hast, und geht dann. Ah, so ein Arsch. Mann. Na gut. Ja, wir haben Damien durchgespielt. Zwei von drei. Ich bin immer noch echt... Das gute Ende war echt schön. Ach, wir sollten vielleicht doch zuerst zu den Bad Ends gehen. Und uns das gute Ende für den Schluss aufbewahren. Aber jetzt kommt noch Rick und ich bin unfassbar gespannt auf Rick, um ehrlich zu sein. Und ja, ich freue mich jetzt direkt auf die Geschichte nochmal mit Rick zu erleben. Und weil der ist so ganz anders. Also es sind ja alle drei komplett unterschiedliche Charaktere. Und ich bin echt gespannt, muss ich sagen. Jawohl, dann würde ich sagen, ich mache hier nochmal einen kurzen Cut. Und wir sehen uns gleich wieder, wenn wir in Richtung Rick spielen. So, willkommen zurück. Hier sind wir wieder. Und zwar ziemlich am Anfang, das war kurz, nachdem wir die Treppe runtergestoßen worden sind und wir uns den Knöchel verstaucht haben. Und die Woche ist so vorbeigegangen und unserem Knöchel geht es mittlerweile wieder gut. Und es ist, glaube ich, Wochenende. Und das letzte Mal, als wir sowohl zu Montys als auch zu Damiens Route sind wir Go for a Walk in the Gardens gegangen. Aber diesmal, da wir natürlich nun Rick spielen wollen, gehen wir go to the study room.